Oh my god, the evoker guy was right. Well, partially right. The evoker part he got right. The bard part, or minstrel part, or whatever he said, not as much. Maybe he just got lucky. Maybe Blizzard were working on these things at the same time. That's an interesting thought. The other ones didn't make it to print, I guess. Who knows? Who knows? Probably just got lucky. I mean, confirmation bias and all that. Anyway, shall we talk about Dragonflight? When you get older, when you become an adult, Christmas isn't as exciting. So instead of Christmas, you find other things, like World of Warcraft expansion reveals. Those are my Christmases. Merry Christmas, everyone. This was a pretty good one. I mean, they're all pretty good ones, if I'm being honest. The only expansion reveal, and I might be tainting my memory retrospectively here, but the only expansion reveal I remember being slightly tepid about was Battle for Azeroth, because it was just so out there and weird. I was like, oh really? We're doing the faction war again? Okay. And you've split your expansion in half? That's kind of how it felt. And it's worth talking about that, actually, because as I've mentioned in previous videos about WoW recently, I feel like I have an issue with terrestrial expansions, right? Like, I don't find them as interesting as, like, cosmic expansions. At least not in terms of aesthetic, at its most basic. But looking at this expansion, I'm actually delighted. I think it looks, just the Dragon Isles themselves, I think they look amazing. I'm excited for just like an exploration themed expansion. I think the zones are slightly reminiscent of Legion, which I'm down for. And yeah, it looks pretty. A lot of it looks very natural and foresty, and like a step away from maybe the theme parkness of like, we've got the spooky zone over here and the desert zone over here, and you know, that kind of thing. And honestly, I'm down for them giving that a try. Obviously it's still different biomes, it's different types of woodlands, but it's a lot of woodlands. But again, that's fine. The CGI trailer was very slow, very different to how World of Warcraft CGI trailers normally are, actually, but I think it was good. You really cared about Stone Guy. People are calling him Stone Bro. Taliesin's calling him Tony. I'm gonna call him Tony. I really cared about Tony's plight, even though he was just a statue. People have been memeing on the fact that he has more character development in 3 minutes than Zoval had in 2 years. Given that this is apparently Steve Denuza's first real, like, you know, we're in real Denuza territory here. He's not wrapping up something that somebody else started. I think that's probably a win for him, right? Just the reaction to the Dragon Isles in general, I mean, not just Tony. I mean, lots of people work on these things. It feels like right now, every MMO, okay, maybe not every MMO, most MMOs that I'm aware of are just like, fuck all that other stuff, should we just go on a nice fun high fantasy adventure? ESO's doing it, WoW's doing it, Final Fantasy 14 is doing it. I don't know if it's high fantasy in Final Fantasy 14, I haven't checked out 6.1 yet, but it seems like they're all just going, let's just go on an adventure. And I'm always wary about lowering the stakes, but it feels like in every single case here, it's incredibly refreshing, and I'm so excited for all of these things. Like, that's my main takeaway from watching this preview. I'm watching the High IL preview for ESO earlier last week as well. Just like, it feels so refreshing, and like they've cut out all the bullshit that even if I'm like apologetic about it, I'm still aware that it's bullshit. Now, I heard from some people speculating that we would be having a playable dragon race, but I honestly did not did not believe it. I kind of didn't even bother considering it. For some reason, that just didn't seem likely to me. But I love them for Drakfir. They look very colourful. They look kind of dopey. They remind me of a cosmetic you can earn in RuneScape free, which basically gives you the look of one of these dudes. It's like almost the same design. I think they're called Dragonkin in RuneScape free, and I really like that cosmetic, so I obviously really like this race in WoW. I'm going to be purple, A, because I like purple, but B, because of a little nod to Spyro. I'm not going to call my character Spyro or anything dumb like that, but I'm very fond of Spyro the Dragon as a little platforming character of my childhood. Also, lore-wise, I don't know if the skin colours really matter the way they do for the aspects, but if red and blue dragonflights have destruction magic, then red and blue together make purple, so there you go. I'm going to be going for the devastation range DPS class, of course, because I don't do healing, that's scary. I'll probably make a green dragon at some point to do healing. Before you go, you can be both. I like to make a spec-specific character. It's just more of an excuse for me to build up a character with heavy theming on, like, you know, like a fire mage instead of a general mage, stuff like that. Speaking of which, I guess we're doing this out of order of what's on the back of the box. That seems like a good time to bring up the new talent trees. One of the few features of this expansion that I'm tepid about. As you may already know, I'm not a huge, like, endgame raider. I'm not, like, into min-maxing my character and stuff like that. So I look at these talent trees, and my first reaction is I'm intimidated, and my second reaction is I'm just gonna look up my build on Icy Veins and do that, right? Like, I've never been one of those people who's like, bring the old talent trees back, and I'm worried that this game may end up suffering for them caving to the wills of those people who did want the old talent trees back. And I've played with the old talent trees at this point. I've played Classic, okay? Do you know what I do in Classic? I look up Frost Mage build on Icy Veins, and I follow those talents. Every level I have to go to a website and check it out. And you might be going, well, yeah, that's your fault. You don't have to do that. You can figure it out for yourself. Min-maxing is fun if you do it yourself. But, like, I don't care about doing 1% more damage after spending hours and hours poring over spreadsheets. It's not for me. But hey, if they implement this correctly, and people really like it, then it can only be a good thing, right? Because that's my thing. Like, call me an apologist for the old talent system, but Blizzard state with the old talent system, the idea is that you don't have to go looking up builds. You just choose what sounds most fun. And I'm kind of behind that. If you watch my Adventures in Arrakesh videos, part 4 isn't out yet, but I know this clip is in part 4. I'm literally hovering over the talents and going, ooh, that one sounds like fun, I'm picking that one. I don't care that it does like 1% less DPS, I'm picking it because it's fun. And when I look at this new talent system, I'm just like, I don't want to be like, oh, should I put 1% more damage into Frost, or should I put, 1% more movement speed slowing into my Frost spell? Like, I don't care. I'm just going to look it up on Icy Veins. But again, maybe this feature isn't made for people like me. It's probably made for... Okay, maybe I shouldn't fire on all cylinders on this part, but I feel like I should mention, or I feel like I want to mention, that apparently a whole bunch of people are being transphobic to one of the designers of this system, and I feel like saying to them, you should be stuck with the old fucking talent system, because these are the people who've been asking for talent systems for so fucking long, and they finally get it, and they just make fucking transphobic statements about one of the people who helped design it. It pisses me off. They don't deserve a new talent system. They can fucking eat shit. Okay, moving back on to gameplay stuff. I didn't really talk about the Evokers as a class. I only really talked about the Drakthir as a race. I think having a new ranged DPS class is really cool, something I've been wanting for ages. I love, like, the Alexstrasza Fire Strafe ability, and I just think it looks really cool. I think because Evokers can only be Drakthir and Drakthir can only be Evokers, there's something weird in my brain where it doesn't necessarily feel like a new class. It feels like a new race with its own abilities, if you know what I mean. Maybe I'll feel differently after I've actually played the class myself, but also maybe it's because it's something that hasn't really been established in Warcraft lore previously, like Demon Hunters had. It's like I keep forgetting there's a new class. Like, I'm so focused on the fact that we're getting Drakthir that, like, I look at the new tier sets, I'm like, wait, why is there an extra one? Oh, right, because of Evokers. One little criticism I have, which they lauded as a feature, is when you're using your spells, they try and make it so that all 5 colours of the aspects kind of weave into the one colour that you're using as a spell. And I'm actually not a fan of that. I don't understand how if I'm shooting at a fireball at somebody, I have to shoot all 5 aspects of dragon magic, and then it decides to be red dragon magic by the time it hits them. I'm not a huge fan of that. It feels weird. They also mentioned that there's going to be a new type of spell. I think they called it an empower spell, where the longer you hold the button down for, the more of an effect it has. Like, for instance, I think they mentioned a attack where if you just kind of press it quickly, it just hits one target, but the longer you hold it down, the more targets it hits. I can see them going back and changing, like, Demon Hunter's Eye Beam to be one of those kinds of abilities, and honestly, it's the first time they've ever touched the core gameplay of tab targeting and added something new to it. It reminds me of how they try to add a new keyword to Hearthstone cards every expansion, and if that's the kind of thing that they're going to be doing from here on out, I'm absolutely down for it. Having played Final Fantasy XIV this year, or last year, the first thing that really struck me was how much better their tab targeting combat felt. So if they're working on making their tab targeting combat feel better on a fundamental level by adding new things like empower spells, I couldn't be more excited for that. That actually is something that I want to praise real quick. It feels like about half a year ago now, Eon in an interview mentioned that they wanted to stop adding new systems that you throw away at the end of every expansion and really kind of expand upon what's already there instead, which is obviously something they're doing with a talent system and the UI and everything. And I think this is to great effect. I think this is the way to go. I think this is going to be like, if they pull this off, it could be another golden age for the game. I really don't like engaging with these new systems every expansion, not because we throw them away at the end, but because, you know, after playing this game for so long, learning something new every 2 years and being told to care about the system and engage with it honestly just gets a little bit tiring. So focusing their, as much as I'm skeptical about it, focusing their efforts on the new talent system instead of like adding something new, like a new dragon aspect system of its own abilities that you can use with your dragon or something. I'm so happy they went with it. Even if I'm skeptical about the talent system rework, I'm so happy they went with that instead. And I count the empowering spell button as part of that as well. Like, they're going back and they're like re-examining the fundamentals and being like, okay, well, we can do more stuff than just, you know, an instant ability or a charged ability, you know. I think the fact that the new spec is range DPS as well really helps with that, because they haven't made anything new for ranged classes since the beginning of World of Warcraft. So while they may have revamped them plenty of times over the course of the expansions, they haven't looked at the fundamentals for ranged classes, and it's a lot of standing there and filling bars up. Evoker looks to change all of that. I'm not a huge healer, but I like the idea of having just like this orb of healing you spit out and it hits like in a circle and it like bursts the group up with a heal. That feels very Elder Scrolls Online to me. I've never actually played a healer in Elder Scrolls Online, but I know what they do. I've only ever played healers at low level, which might be my problem, but I've played a few healers in World of Warcraft, and it very much feels like I'm just stood around waiting for the bars to go down so I can press my cast to make the bar go up again. This feels more dynamic. Shall we talk about a feature which I was skeptical about when I first saw it, but they've won me over since? That feature would be dragon riding. I was like, why are you bothering with dragon riding when we have flying? And I saw the animations and I went, okay, but still, it seems like a bit of a gimmick. But the more I hear about it, the more I like it. The fact that this is the kind of AP style system that's going to be in the game, we think. And so you're going to be basically leveling up your dragon as you play through the expansion. That is infinitely more appealing to me than leveling up some arbitrary fucking necklace or a Covenant Order Hall that I'm not sure what I should be spending my anima on, because half of it's cosmetics and half of it is important progression. I'm assuming you get this dragon as a whelpling or something through questing, and then you can ride it by the end of questing, or maybe within the first few weeks after you hit end level. But like leveling up its speed and its abilities, like how it can, you know, like nosedive and freaking like do barrel rolls and shit. I'm so down for this, especially with all the customization options for the dragon as well. I made a druid, so I'm probably going to try and get an emerald looking dragon. You can get the dragon armor and shit like that. I'm so into this. I'm so incredibly into this. And it's also fun to consider the fact that since flying is going to be available from so early on, how is that going to affect zone design? Like, are there going to be flying islands we're not going to be able to go and visit until we've got our dragons up to a certain amount of flying? I still remain slightly dubious about how it feels to play for yourself. It looks like it works pretty well, but like, it sounds ambitious on paper. But everyone's saying that this looks like it's been ripped pretty much straight from Guild Wars 2, and from what I've heard of a mount system in Guild Wars 2, that can only be a good thing. I mean, you know, if it's done right. Something that also seems to be fairly hidden in the press kit and was still worded weirdly, so I'm not entirely sure about this. It sounds like you're going to have a choice of 4 main dragons as you go throughout the zones, and you befriend each one in each zone, and then you choose your one at the end. That's kind of what it sounded like in the press kit. Again, I could be wrong, but that's kind of weird because they're like, oh, you customize your dragon and everything. What's a customizability system like if there's still 4 distinct dragons to choose from? Am I just choosing the dragon model in these zones? Like, are they different dragon models, and then I customize like the scales and the appearance and the beak and everything like that, and the armor afterwards? Maybe, I don't know. That's my prediction. I'm not too keen on the profession stuff. I'm a little bit burnt out from the last time I tried to care about professions still. I think the new work order stuff sounds pretty cool, where you like put in a work order and either your guildie or a random person, and they can like make it for you through this system, and I think that's cool. I see they've brought Elder Scrolls Online's workbenches system to the fray, so that you're actually like in a hub of players crafting your stuff instead of just wherever you are in the world. I think that's ultimately pretty cool too. It also seems like they've got Final Fantasy XIV's crafting, or at least like their class swapping system specifically for your profession in terms of gear, and I think that's pretty cool too. It looks like they've been looking at other MMOs for this expansion and seeing what they do well and what they want to kind of take influence from. But again, I've just abandoned skinning and level working and jumped to Inscription, and I don't see how Inscription is going to be quite as big of a deal as these other professions in this system, so I don't know, man. We'll see how it works out, I guess. This is still going to be a system I only interface with after I've done everything else there is to do. Have a new HUD, cool, I guess. I'm a little skeptical about this too, not because I don't think they're going to do a good job, but because I've downloaded add-ons of these heads-up displays that everyone recommends, and I've always felt like they're so unfamiliar and not janky, but like clunky to me because I don't know how to use them yet, and they make the game feel so unfamiliar I always end up switching back. So my concern is, if this interface update is too different, I might have that issue and not be able to switch back because that's just a vanilla interface now. But then they are putting emphasis on customizability, so I guess it's probably going to be fine because I can just customize it to how I want it. The new models for the griffins on the side of the bars looks pretty damn cool though. It's the kind of thing that feels a little weird to kind of throw in as like a major expansion feature, but I think when we actually get our hands on it, we'll realise how transformative it makes the game feel. They've also released concept art of the tier sets, and they look fucking dope as hell. I'm not so sure about the Druid set, sadly. I think that looks good, but it just kind of makes you look a little fuzzy, a little furry. But like so many of these sets look amazing, like the Rogue set, the Warrior set, the fucking Demon Hunter set, what I can only assume is the Evoker set, or maybe it's the Death Knight set, I'm not so sure, but it looks amazing. Now we've gone over everything that was announced. I should probably talk about some other stuff, like what I might have expected to see and didn't show up, or what I was hoping for and was obviously a big ask and didn't show up, like housing. I don't know why at the last minute all of us decided that housing was something that was on the cards, because it definitely wasn't. But yeah, I got swept up in the housing hype and obviously it didn't happen, which is a shame. Maybe next expansion. It definitely feels like a box feature, like I feel like if we didn't have dragon riding, housing could maybe be on the table, but we have dragon riding and I feel like that's probably where all those efforts went, and that's fine. In this expansion I'm gonna get to be a dragon, wearing dragon scales for some reason, riding a dragon on the Dragon Isles. They really doubled down on the whole dragon theme and I'm here for it. We didn't get a release date, which is a kind of a bummer, but I don't think we ever really get release dates for these things nowadays, do we? I don't think we got one for Shadowlands anyway. I was kind of expecting pre-orders to go up, but now that I think about it, I'm not sure if that's how that worked with Shadowlands either. I think my wallet breathed a sigh of relief when the pre-orders didn't go up though. I just pre-ordered High Isle, okay? I was like, oh shit, they really sold me on High Isle in a way I didn't expect. It's a really hard name to say quickly, isn't it? And I'm absolutely going to pre-order it now. And then I pre-ordered it, and then I went, wait, shit, isn't the WoW announcement next week? Oh no. I'm a little concerned about the fact that we haven't heard anything about endgame features like world quests. Doesn't seem like any big revamp for them is on the table, because that seems like it would be a box feature if there was. But given the fact that they've already committed to their promise of their change in design philosophy pretty well with what we've seen so far, maybe that's still to come. Maybe they frankly haven't got that far in designing the expansion yet. I assume there will be another preview. There's usually another preview for in-game features somewhere later down the line, but who knows how far away that's going to be. So I still have a lot of, all the things I was talking about in my wishlist video. I still have a lot of those preconceptions, those concerns, I guess I should say, where I'm like, the World Quest system could use a bit of a refresh, They did make mention, I think, in one of the interviews about Reputation's unlocking new story, which is pretty much what I was talking about last video, isn't it? So hopefully that wasn't just marketing babble. Hopefully that actually comes through in the actual expansion. I'll be thrilled to bits if it does, because right now Reputation doesn't do that. Reputation's just kind of there for grinding. They also haven't mentioned anything about legendaries, and I'm concerned because, as you may remember from the previous video if you watched it, I detest the current implementation of legendaries. I think they're just expensive. You either buy them or spend hundreds of hours grinding crafting to learn how to make them, like It's not interesting, it's not engaging, it's just a chore. As I mentioned last week, look at the artifact acquisition quest lines. Again, this isn't my idea, but look at the artifact acquisition quest lines in Legion and do that for legendaries instead, and tie lore to it and make them interesting for people who aren't that interested in min-maxing their characters to acquire them. That's what I would like to see anyway. And while I'm glad that this expansion's tone is literally just let's go on an adventure, let's go explore the Dragon Isles, there are some... sorry, there are a tracker passing by my window. While I do love the idea of literally just going and exploring Dragon Isles, there do seem to be some like, oh, you know, old evils are stirring and we need your help and stuff. It feels like we do need a little bit more plot, like there's no villain at the minute, we're just kind of going there because the dragon said, hey, can you come over here? But I'm kind of hoping they leave that for us to find in the course of the questing, like as part of this whole exploration theme. But it's a double-edged sword, because at the same time it does feel like something's missing, like a motive to go and do what we're doing in terms of the story. But I don't know, it really does feel like a clean slate. Like, I don't think the whole Azeroth world soul thing is gone forever. I think we're going to learn more stuff about that when we get to Sindragosa's archive. I think the fact that we're meeting with Titan Keepers and stuff is probably going to be important for that kind of thing as well. But it feels like, at least for the intro questing for the opening patch, like by which I mean 10.0, it feels like we're going to be kind of not going back to basics, but just like having a nice clean slate of just go on an Azerothian adventure, just go have fun. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until they showed it off, and I was like, oh fuck, I do want that. Okay, good job, you've sold me on that idea. Anyway, I think that's everything. I don't think I've forgotten any major features or anything like that. Let me know what you thought about the expansion down below, or in Discord chat where I'm going to be posting this video. Hi guild, how are you doing? Oh, and one last thing. I hate the logo. Everyone seems to love the logo. I hate the logo. I think it looks dopey as fuck. I'm not a fan. But hey, they can't all be winners, eh?